Are we ready to do this?
Yes. I mean, as ready as I'm ever gonna
be. Are you sure? See, you're not ready, girl.
No, I am.
Oli, welcome.
No, wait, one second.
Oh my God, sorry. Girl, you interrupted me like Katya and Trixie on.
No, okay, yeah. All right. Now.
Okay. Oli, welcome to the show. What?
I didn't see.
Oli, welcome to yet another Drag Race review podcast. I'm your host, Terry Blas.
I'm Chucho Quintero.
And this is the J word, your home for all things Drag Race Mexico. Well, I think we should get right into it and do a little bit of housekeeping.
Yeah.
So some of these things we're going to mention and go through real quick because we want to get to the episode. But a couple of them we will chat about a little bit. The first thing is, if you didn't notice or if you didn't know, recently Valentina was on pit stop for Drag Race All Stars, so go check that out.
She was hysterical. I loved it.
Oh, she was so funny on it. Yeah. The other thing I want to mention is that recently, this past week, I think, or a week and a half, I don't know, the Drag Race Mexico queens were at Mexico City Pride in the Marcha del Orgullo, and they posted it all over their social media and everything. So it was really cool to see what they were wearing and what they were doing. Go check that out. The next thing is that if you are into the telenovelas, then have I got a treat for you, because Salina EsTitties has a new show on YouTube called Amigas y Amores, and you should check it out. It's really fun.
Which is, I guess it's a reference to Amigas y Rivales, which is a very famous telenovela. Mm-hmm. And also, when I saw that you wanted to mention Salina, I thought you were gonna mention that she went like gay viral, like not like whole Twitter viral, but like just gay viral a couple of days ago, because she posted just a random video of her the day that she came back from Drag Race, like so.
Oh, I saw.
Yeah, mm-hmm. and everybody was like, "Okay, hello, Miss Titties," because she looks particularly. I mean, I've always thought that she's really hot, but she looks particularly like hot in that video, and we were all like thirsting over her.
This is weird. I don't know how, but Salina EsTitties and I have been like Facebook friends for a long time, but never spoken to each other. Okay. Don't know how. But like for like Salina's like non-drag account, mm-hmm. right? And I think it must have been because like I'm like maybe on Gina or something, and we added, who knows? But like it was just funny to see, like when I found out she was on Drag Race, I went back to like the Facebook account and I was like, oh yeah, very handsome. Like posting pictures from like all throughout her. Anyway, also I want to mention that Binge Queens, which is like in America it was called the People's Couch. In England, it's called Gogglebox, and I love it. And it's essentially people watching TV and talking about it, but they do Binge Queens. They do that with Drag Race Queens. So for Drag Race Mexico, we've got Alexis Mateo, Mariah Balenciaga, who's like, I'm not Latina, girl, but guess what? I'll do this. I think Alexis was like, well, you're all we got right now. And also April Carrion and Cynthia Lee Fontaine. Miss Cuckoo herself. And so they're talking about the episodes. They like review the looks. They also they decided to do Chida and Chafa. I think Chafa, right? Yeah. I was like, girl, we did it first. But whatever.
You'll be hearing from our lawyers.
Yeah. Lawyer up. No, I'm kidding. But honestly, it's fun to watch. So go support them too. And the more Binge Queens people watch, the more we'll get, the more drag content we'll get. So that's great. Another thing is that Matraka over on her Instagram is posting videos about like her looks each week, I guess, like her concept and what she designed. And so that's really cool. I think that's neat to go check out. So there's a couple things that we want to get into a little bit more. The first one is Visa over on DragRaceEspaña and her look that she came out on the runway in, I think in the finale, because like, mm-hmm. They on some of the international versions, they invite the queens back, like all of them back, to get into it and show like what they kind of would have done. So you wanted to talk about it a little bit though.
Yeah, because I loved it because as usual, Visa is working the references, is working the Mexican references, and it's always, I feel like even now that we get like all these references like in the same show, on Drag Race Mexico, it's still pretty great to see like a single queen, like when she's the only one in a whole season, doing all these very specific references.
Yeah.
And so she did the trenzas, she did the long braids, and at the end of the braids you can see the bows, and actually like the bikini that she's wearing. All of that is made out of paliacates, just like Matraka's entrance look. It's oh God, I just forgot trend alert, paliacates.
Trend alert, yeah.
Yes, and also she has a headpiece on that is it's un tortillero. A tortillero is basically like this, they're usually made out of like like mimbre. I just forgot, like like palm, like this
like palm
natural thread.
fronds.
Yes.
Like, but yeah.
Yeah, or they can
dried palm fronds that like
yes,
you
exactly.
weave baskets and stuff with.
Yes, it is like weaving material. That's
between the two of us and our English and Spanish, we'll get it. We'll get there.
Anyway, so they're usually made out of that, or they can be made of whatever, plastic or whatever, but the traditional ones are made out of weaving material. And you put the tortillas in there so that they stay warm, while you eat your meal or whatever. And so she has one on the top of her head, and then she does this, and some flowers fall off the tortillero. So it was, I think it was really funny to be like, you know what, I'm wearing the whole tortillero on my head, and if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't.
Literally, the only thing I wish would have happened was that instead of flowers, I wish tortillas had fallen out of it.
Yes. Anyway. But yeah, I love the look.
Yeah, it was great. I thought it was really cool. The next thing I want to talk about is something that we did touch on last week, but then we also talked about it sort of off camera. And some of the stuff we said, I think, was sort of pertinent. So we can mention it real quick, but it was regarding Margaret's now controversial runway look from the first episode, which if you're going to do something controversial on Drag Race, great. You're going to be memorable. You're going to be, people are going to talk about it. So that's good. It's good to like, I mean, if the point is to get attention and to be memorable, great. The only thing that I wanted to mention was that part of the reason that it wasn't for me was because of sort of that whole like pride issue, right? Like taking pride in your ancestry and your heritage and being Mexican and whatever. And I'm not saying that Margaret isn't proud of that. Obviously, I think she really is. But the difference for me was in the being Mexican American, right? She can do this. It's great. She's Mexican, Mexico City, awesome. But when I was like talking about this show being an international platform, for me, it hits different, I think, because I was telling you, like, there's a different kind of social responsibility when you live, I think, in the United States and you are classified as Mexican American, right? Because, for instance, people coming to my house as a kid, it was always spotless. My mom kept it spotless. And that's because we couldn't, she never really said this, but the implication was we couldn't run the risk of someone coming to our house and being like, oh, so Mexicans are dirty. Mexicans are gross, right? They're lazy. Oh, look at their house. So we had that responsibility of we can't even appear to ever be messy or unorganized. So maybe that also explains a little bit about my personality. But that's all that I wanted to mention is that obviously I think it's different depending on whether or not you are Mexican living in Mexico, whether you're Mexican American. Like there's differences there that I think is the whole point of this podcast, right?
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of it's an immigrant experience. I think when you were mentioning this just now, I was thinking about Hassan Minaj. He has this Homecoming King, his first like big special on Netflix, and there he talks about something that I've heard from other comedians that are like first generation or second generation, that is this whole thing of like how the house smells because of the spices that they use, South Asian people or Asian people, the spices that they use to cook, and how people who would come in would be like, oh, your house stinks. And it's like, well, it doesn't stink. Like, it's just the spices that we use to make food, the food that we eat every day.
Also, it doesn't stink to us,
Exactly.
right? The people that live in that house. It's a different, right.
But then it's something that creates this sort of this sense of shame on your own food and your own culture, because you don't want to stink for the culture that surrounds you outside of your house, which is like white Americans.
That's why I wrote, so like, not to literally not to promote my own work, I hate doing it, but in Deadweight I wrote a whole scene where Jessie, who's a Mexican American character, talks about like, look, in Spanish, like maybe in Mexico, and her family's Mexican, she's like, maybe in Mexico when someone calls you like gordita, it's not like an insult, or not meant to be an insult, right? But she's like, but great, but I live in the United States, so when I go and live out my day in a country and in a culture where getting called fat is an insult, and then at home they're like gordita, so she's like, how do I separate that in my brain? Like, that's not easy to do, right? Scott and I were watching the new season of Black Mirror, and there's one episode that is very fantasy and has nothing to do with technology, but it's about a British woman in the 70s who is of Indian descent. And they talk to her at her work about like, could you please not bring in food from home? Could you maybe just bring a sandwich? Because the food that you bring in really stinks. Like that, and so it's sort of similar. She's an immigrant. Well, maybe she's not an immigrant. She might have been even born and raised in England, but maybe her parents were immigrants, maybe her grandparents, and that trickles down, right? Is like what we were just talking about. So anyway.
So, and something that we were just talking just before we started recording is that as time goes by, on the show, now that we're on episode 2, I realized that it is not a bug, it's actually a feature, like it is by design. This season of Drag Race, this franchise is designed for both the Mexican audience and the Mexican American audience, because I feel
look at
like
the hosts.
Yes, exactly. But then, now that we're on episode 2, I come to realize that the entire show is kind of designed for Mexican people to be like, oh yeah, we get all the jokes, we get all the references, blah blah blah, but also for Mexican Americans to be like, we are also part of this. It's kind of like, because it's not apologetic about, for example, Valentina is doing what she does best, which is like being herself, but she's completely unapologetic about like making grammar mistakes, or maybe not, or maybe sometimes speaking in Spanglish because she doesn't know the exact word that she needs to use. And the show kind of embraces that, you know what I mean? And also, for example, these episodes.
¿Están cosiendo o están usando glue?
Yes, no, it's a great example. But also, like, for example, the fact that this episode is all about like, quinceañeras, and they used, completely interchangeably, the fact that here in Mexico, we don't say quinceañera is not the noun for the party. Quinceañera is the noun for the girl. The girl is the quinceañera. And in the US, Mexican Americans, through the magic of linguistics, they changed it so that quinceañera refers to the party, but
party,
not to
the
event.
Girl.
Exactly. And so they kind of used it interchangeably here in this episode. And they said like, quince años, which is the noun that we use for the party. And they said also like, to quinceañera, in like Mexican Americans would say, and it was kind of like not even acknowledged, but that makes it unapologetic to me. You know what I mean?
I'm curious whether or not it was a conversation in the creation of the show.
I'm sure it was.
To say like, look, yes, it's Drag Race Mexico, but there are also 30 million plus Mexican Americans in the United States. And are you telling me they're not going to watch this? Of course they are. So, cater to that a tiny bit, not the whole time, but just, a little bit.
Yeah.
The last thing we've got in our housekeeping is our Yuri update.
Yay!
All
so
right.
Anyway, I'm gonna be real quick. So the other day, through the magic of algorithms, I was scrolling through Instagram and I ran into this video of Yuri, our friend Yuri, where she's doing one of 1,000 interviews she's done where people ask her about, her homophobic remarks, and if she wants to, apologize or explain them or whatever. And once again, she doubles down and she says like, no, I'm not homophobic, blah, blah, blah. But this time, she literally looks off camera, and she goes like, my makeup artist and my hair artist are here, so like come here guys, come here. And so she gets her makeup people on the couch of this interview, and she goes like, am I homophobic? I'm not a homophobic, right? And they kind of look at her and I don't know, of course not, of course not. And obviously the comments are like, girl, they work for you, like of course they're not gonna call you homophobic on camera, like that's dumb. And it's almost like, she's like basically like kidnapping them, like tell them I'm not homophobic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. And so this video, then I did some research, and this interview is actually from 2021. But then through the magic of algorithm, I ran into on TikTok a video of Lorena Herrera, which you may know from either La Más Draga season 1, where she was the host, or Katya's obsession with her. Because
yeah.
Katya has mentioned her like a few times on and it's kind of crazy because of all the Mexican queer icons that she could mention, like Lorena Herrera is a very specific one. So
I think it was probably brought her attention because people probably said, oh, you look like your aesthetic
exactly.
is like her, right? So
which is like blonde and like this bimbo, but anyway, so I looked at this TikTok of Lorena Herrera in an event. I think it was a La Más Draga event. She was talking about how gay people to her, and she was very specific about this, gay people to her are not just her makeup people or her hair people or the people who made her her costumes. Like she has like, she says like they are people, and they're like friends of mine who are like my personal friends, not just because they work for me.
Imagine that.
Exactly. And it just, everybody on the comments agrees that it felt so specific.
It was very pointed shade. Well, so a long time ago, I saw a great stand-up special of Margaret Cho, who I love, and she was talking about this very thing. And she said, people who are like, no, but my hairstylist and my makeup art. She's like, that is just like the 60s when white people were like, oh, I love that song, but please don't use that drinking fountain.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
literally.
Thank you for the things I can get from you. Thank you for the culture and the fun, whatever. But I'm gonna vote against you, and I'm gonna, give me a break.
It feels like Kelly Osbourne defending Mexicans from Trump. Remember that iconic moment?
Who's gonna clean your? Oh, girl. Well, at the top of this episode, the queens enter the workroom. They're giving us La Dragaracha.
La Dragaracha. Ya se quiere maquillar.
Well, first of all, Cristian then gives us like cinco bebés.
Sí, bebé. Y te voy a decir una cosa, bebé.
And Gala serves us an accidental death drop when the siren goes off. Before Lolita comes in to snatch all of their wigs that they aren't even wearing yet with a quick tongue lashing about, oh, so you feel good? You feel confident? It's kind of funny.
El chanclazo. They said el chanclazo, which is basically like, throwing the chancla at them.
Yeah.
So about this La Dragaracha thing, it's something that I started, that we as the Drag Race audience started getting, like on Drag Race France and DragRaceEspaña, we started getting these full-on skits the moment they walk into the workroom, because sometimes on regular Drag Race in the US, we get, like they will walk in and be like, yay, top 4 or whatever. But they don't have like a full-on skit like on España and France, On España, they would come in with like, they rehearsed the entire shit, And at first I was like, wait, how did they organize that whole thing? But then I found out, early on España season 1, I found out they don't sequester the queens. Like they don't isolate them from each other when they're not shooting the show. So the kind of like the tension that we have on Drag Race US is not present on other franchises because the queens get to hang out with each other outside of the shooting of the show.
Yeah, and resolve whatever was going on.
Exactly. So there is drama or whatever, but they are not like literally on a freaking psychological experiment that like they are in the US. So I'm pretty sure that they are also not isolated here in Drag Race Mexico when they shoot it in Colombia, because that's how they can like literally organize freaking skits and everything. Yeah.
Or
so
songs, whatever they're
so we're gonna get one of those every time they walk into the workroom. And the second one, because they walked into the workroom and then we get like the next day and we get another one. The second one was they did Grito de Independencia, you know? So the Grito de Independencia, very quickly, when Mexico started the independence war against Spain in 1810, it was the night between September 15 and September 16. So in that night, Miguel Hidalgo started, you know, the kind of like the independence revolution or whatever against the Spanish by standing in front of a crowd, holding, you know, a estandarte, a flag of La Virgen de Guadalupe, and basically saying like you know, a very Hollywood-like speech, you know, like we're gonna rise up and fight against the Spanish, blah blah blah. But then he ended by saying "Viva, viva someone, viva someone else, and viva Mexico," you know. And so, well, no, it wasn't called Mexico back then. Viva la Nueva España. Sorry. And so every September 15th, the president of Mexico or the governors in each of the states or the mayors in each of the cities, they recreate this speech, and they end by saying Viva, and they mention like several war heroes, you know, Viva Hidalgo, Viva Morelos, Viva blah, blah, blah. Every single time throughout the years, they have kind of like spiced it up a little bit, and they add their own heroes that they like, you know, their favorite heroes. But anyway, that's what they did here on Drag Race Mexico. They did, Viva la Comunidad, Viva Drag Race Mexico, and Viva Mamaru. and then you, every time you end this Viva someone else by saying Viva Mexico 3 times. So they said Viva Mexico, Viva Mexico.
Yeah.
So we get our Grito de Independencia now. So that was great.
You know what ended that war?
What?
El aire y la rosa de Guadalupe.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be the best episode?
Yes, Miguel Hidalgo was like, where did that rose come from?
Wouldn't that be the best episode?
Yeah.
Just once, I want someone on Drag Race to be like, well, it's the same day in the workroom. In this episode, there's no mini reto. They get right to it. And Lolita and Valentina introduce that this week's maxi reto is making a vestido for una fiesta de 15 años, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess if you don't speak Spanish, a quinceañera dress. Pixie is very confident. Vermelia is not. and we sort of go from there, right? Before we get into sort of what happens in the workroom, I just want to mention that I love Lady Quero's black, like, fox beret that she's wearing. It's really cute. I want it.
Yeah.
But this week, there's not really that much drama or fighting. You know, so like the story of the week in the workroom is more like the typical, you know, I can't sew shenanigans, which I find really funny because at the top of this episode, Galavaro was very confident and very like, oh, girls, so you just really like weren't really that good last week. And now she's like, oh, shit. Yeah. Right. After the challenge is presented, she knows she's in trouble.
I think there was a little bit of a difference here because none of them were like, I have no freaking idea how to sew something, how to put something together. So it was more like I can put something together, but it's not gonna be good, you know? Yeah.
Well, so that's the thing that I thought was interesting is that a lot of times on Drag Race, it's make a cool dress out of this stuff, right? This was make a specific quinceañera, like, you know, a dress for a fiesta de 15 años, because like that I think for a lot of people brings a very specific aesthetic to mind. So you can't make like a cool fashiony couture dress or whatever, even though Valentina is like couture. But like it has to be like, you know, a quinceañera dress. So that I think is part of the difficulty. Cristian gives some really good advice to Gala, which I think is great because she's like, don't you have like girl, don't you have a corset that you can like alter or whatever? And she's like, I do, but it's for later. And Christian's like, later, girl, you're here now. Like, you can't
which is
hold
literally
back for later. Like,
what Ru has told them, you know, on previous seasons, where they go like, oh, this is, you know, a very simple outfit or whatever, and they go like, oh, I have better stuff, and Ru is like, the time to show it is now, you know?
Yeah, like, you may not be here tomorrow, so
exactly.
right.
Yeah.
So that's really, I just love that she said that to her. Like,
also,
and also, if you're altering like a corset, if you have to do that and do it now, then great. Then like in your hotel, undo what you did to that corset tomorrow night or whatever. You know, like, give me a break.
actually, we got the tea on Twitter that the only dress that survived because it was actually sewn together,
Right,
was Pixie Pixies. Yeah. But I was gonna tell you that we get a little bit of insight into the different aesthetics of quinceañera culture. That's a sentence I never thought I would say. Because usually, you know, we get different kinds of quinceañera vibes. You can do the very traditional one, which is like basically a dress that looks like a cake. You know, that's kind of like the more traditional quinceañera. But there's also, okay, so throughout the years, it started obviously, you know, in the 1900s. So instead of explaining the reference, this is history with Chucho, Mexican history.
Yeah.
Yes. So in the 1900s, it started with basically kind of like recreating the debutante balls, you know, from Europe and the US in the high society of Mexico at the time. Because Mexico in the 1900s was very much, because of Porfirio Diaz, who was the president at the time, he was very much trying to turn Mexico into France, specifically Mexico City into France. That's why, you know, we have these kind of buildings in downtown Mexico. And so the high society was trying to recreate those debutante balls. And eventually, throughout the years, you know, it kind of, you know, trickled down to the entire Mexican society. And then it kind of became something that some girls look down on, because they kind of go like, well, I'm not gonna have like a 15 años, because it's like, that's for like, you know, like trashy girls, you know, like for poor girls, you know, because like I like a 15 años, that's trashy, you know, like that's not. And so
how did that happen if it was meant for high society?
Because eventually it wasn't, because eventually, you know, it became like kind of like, the thing is like, it's a very kitschy aesthetic, you know, to like the dress and the kind of like the cake and the party and everything. So that kind of became synonym with like that's not, no more, you know, that's no longer like,
it's not exclusive anymore.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking about like literally over 100 years, basically. And so now there's these girls who like, okay, they don't have like a full-on 15 años party as you should, but they kind of celebrate the fact that they turn 15. But they are now trying to recreate the Sweet 16 parties. So it's not the huge dress, it's not like the you know, the kitschy ornaments or whatever, but it's a more simple, like, I'm gonna wear, you know, like a nice promy dress and throw a party at a club or something like that. And I'm not gonna dance, you know, with chambelanes, and I'm gonna not do this, blah, blah, blah. So those are kind of like the main two aesthetics of 15 años, you know, the more traditional one and the kind of like I'm cooler than that, you know, kind of aesthetic.
Nice. In the workroom also, Matraka talks about growing up very Catholic in Guanajuato. That's where some of the translation subtitling, I think, is a little off for me, because instead of saying what she literally says, Guanajuato is very Catholic, right? But in the translation, in the subtitling, it says very religious. I was like, well, that's a specific religion.
No, yes, exactly. Be specific.
And how it made her essentially fear the world, like the outside world, and how discovering drag sort of helped her, you know, gain confidence and whatnot. So that was interesting. I could talk about that forever. The only other thing I have that really happened in the workroom this week that I thought was interesting, and it happens again on the runway, is that a few times, I think it's Valentina, she's telling the girls, she says like editar, I think. Is that what she says? Editar? Yeah. And the translation subtitling is polish. And I'm like, no, you can say edit. Like, you can say edit.
Yeah,
Like,
literally.
it's not. It's not
use it on
the same
Drag
thing.
Race. Yes.
Just ask J. Jolie.
Get me that job. I'm gonna do that job better than anyone. Anyway.
Sorry, but yeah. No shade to the person that's doing it, I guess. But...
I was gonna say that we got our first clips into our first Drag Race Mexico clique. Because we got Las Estelares.
I completely missed this.
Yes.
So, they
mentioned it a couple of times. I was gonna ask you how did they subtitle it?
I'm gonna have to watch it. I watched it 3 times, so I'm gonna have to watch it again.
Las Estelares are Gala, Cristian, and Regina. And the funny thing is that the funny thing is that I feel like it's a weird dynamic because I feel that Regina is not doing as great as she thought was gonna do. Yeah.
First of all, explain that name.
Okay. So Las Estelares is like saying like the leading ladies, you know, and so it's a weird dynamic because Regina is not doing as great as we thought she was gonna do, and she evidently thought she was gonna do, and so she feels like the friend that kind of clings to the popular girls. She feels like the Gretchen of the group. And then Gala, you know, like she's basically like in the middle for 2 episodes. So I don't like, I feel like that's kind of like, well, I'm the pretty one, so I'm gonna be part of this clique. And then Cristian is the only one who's doing great. And so I feel like these 2 girls are just clinging to her and be like, okay, you're with us now.
And we'll get there. But Cristian doing great and being the leader of these leading ladies is very Regina George.
Yes.
Right? So we'll get there.
Yes. Also, let's not forget that this is Margaret's second Quinceañera challenge. Because on La Más Draga season 1, there was a Quinceañera runway, you know, first season ever of La Más Draga. And we got a Quinceañera runway, and Margaret did great back then, and she did great tonight. So yeah. They also talked about you know, how they are like creative enough to put something together that the girls that not necessarily know how to sew something together. And they mentioned something that I actually learned. This is something that I learned from La Más Draga, and I'm sure that it's been going on for like years and years, but I didn't know the exact, you know, kind of like slang for it, which is basically being an hechicera. So an hechicera is like, you know, like a witch, you know, like a sorceress. But it's not necessarily about doing magic, but about being able to put something together that it's probably, you know, hot glued together or even stapled together or something that is not necessarily like super polished or something, but it looks good enough from afar that you will go like, oh, okay, so she did something, you know? And so a lot of queens in La Más Draga, and now, you know, Matraka kind of started it here. They was it Matraka? I don't know if it was Matraka. I'm gonna put it right here who it was. She went like I don't know, you know, I'm not an expert, you know, in sewing, but I'm an hechicera, so I'm gonna do some hechizos, you know, and it's kind of like being able to put something together. So yeah,
I'm gonna magic this together with hot glue and a spell.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
but also like you can say it's kind of like a play on words, but because you can say that something that is hechizo. Because an hechizo is a spell, but also you can say that, like, for example, like, oh, this shirt or this outfit, it's very hechizo because it's very like crafty or like, you know, like almost falling apart, you know,
like a badly handmade kind of.
Yes, exactly, something like that. Yeah.
Well, we now go to the main stage. I think Lolita has a very weird walk down the runway.
How?
It's very it doesn't feel like her usual it's very stiff.
Okay.
Like, it's just watch it again, whatever. But she walks down the runway, Valentina walks down the runway. They introduce the guest judge who is so this is weird. Explain this to me. Rockstar, but it's spelled with a J.
Yes, because it's Rockstar, yeah.
We discussed in a previous episode who he is, what he's known for, so go check out that episode. It's in our Meet the Queens episode if you want to know a little bit more about him and his like meme ability, the things he's done.
Long story short, he makes TikToks and he's funny.
Well, let's take a look at these quinceañera
Yeah.
dresses, right?
First off, we got Argenis, and the judges mentioned it, and I think it's pretty obvious that she was the one who did the challenge more literally. And I feel like in this case, that made her stand out for like good reasons, you know? And
Yeah.
I love this dress.
I loved it too. I was worried at first when she came out with the 1-5 because I was like, oh, we don't need a Frostula situation here, right? Like, what are you doing? And then she dropped them, and I was like, oh, like, and what I loved about this outfit was the cups, because usually I think if you add those to a look, it can be really bad. But her thing, like her dress looked like a quinceañera dress, but then these cups, she had like the streamers coming out of them, like there was like liquid coming out of it. It was really cool. I loved it.
Yeah, and the little crown is very cute.
Yeah, it's
so
great.
Yeah, she literally looks like an actual quinceañera, so good for her.
Yeah.
And then we get Cristian Peralta. So Cristian Peralta looks like that other, you know, kind of quinceañera that I told you about. You know, a girl who is just like, you know what? This is the first time that my parents are gonna allow me to look sexy, you know, with a very short dress and, you know, high heels and whatever. And I don't want like a tacky, kitschy quinceañera. I would just want to be hot in a club with my friends. So she looks great. I don't know if Valentina said it or Lolita, but like because of the makeup and the hair, like she looks really young. Like she looks like an actual quinceañera.
Yeah, she does. The only thing that I don't understand is all this stuff in the middle. Like, I don't think that it was even necessary, but maybe it was covering something. I don't know. But I will say I like this. I think it's good. I think it's fine. The one thing I don't understand, and maybe it works for this specific context or whatever, but later on they tell another queen, like, your wig is real flat. And I'm like, girl, there's 2 queens in this runway whose wigs are very, very flat. And this is one of them.
I don't know. Maybe I'm like Oscar pointed out very early on, and he's right. Lolita and Valentina are obsessed with Cristian. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see if that plays in her favor or not.
Yeah.
So now we get Galavaro, who walked on the runway. She was on the episode.
You don't like it?
I mean, it is what it is. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think it's kind of cool, but the color to me doesn't say quinceañera dress, like this bronze kind of palette or whatever. I like that she altered these things and cut them up and placed it like it's almost like kind of Jessica Wilde, like, right? What she would do. I think the exposed corset middle section is really weird. I don't understand that, but I hate this wig. I can't with this wig. Con este no puedo. With this wig, no.
Okay, so now we have Lady Quero. And was Lady Quero safe? She was, right?
Yeah, I think so. And
I mean, well, I was going to say she shouldn't have, but then I remember that there's other 2 queens that shouldn't have that are probably higher than her. So it was okay. Yeah. But I really like this. I think it was good.
I agree with what the judges said. Like, this is fine. This is good, except for that top is a big no-no. Like,
Yeah, because it actually looks like so Cristian, I don't know her life, but Cristian on the Werk Room was wearing like a girdle kind of thing, you know, like and then I kind of realized that he has been wearing it the whole time, like, you know, out of drag. So he probably like out of drag wears some sort of girdle. I don't know why. I don't want to get into it, but it feels like literally like Cristian's girdle. It's a weird color to mix with.
It's just weird, and maybe she didn't have like the funny thing is that I think like, oh, maybe she didn't have enough fabric, whatever. But you can take off 2 of those bottom layers and use that for the top. Like, you don't need to have the dress go all the way to the floor. Like, I don't know. But so it's just okay for me.
Yeah. Now we get Margaret. And I think this is great. I feel like she literally, I don't know what's gonna happen like later on with the outfits that she brought from home, but I feel like right now she's she mentioned it a couple of times throughout the episode. She's like, I'm gonna say curada de espanto, which is basically an expression that means, literally it means like I'm cured out of being scared. Because it means that something happened to you that you are now avoiding something at all costs. So I feel like she's cura espanto from the previous episode. And so now she's like, I'm not going to be conceptual. I'm going to be literal. And if you're going to quinceañera, I'm going to give you a quinceañera and we're going to leave it at that.
Yeah. I like this. I think it's fine. I don't think the gold goes very well with everything else, but at least when she has the gold on the bottom, she has incorporated it in other areas so that it has to go together. It does go together. So that's good. I like that.
Yeah. And also she was the only one, and the judges mentioned it, she was the only one who incorporated like some of the rituals that quinceañeras have. And I'm not going to talk about every single one of them, but the two main ones is that you dance with your last doll because you're no longer a child, you're an older child. And so you'll dance with your last doll. She brought it out, the last doll, and you also get your first pair of heels. So it's like la última muñeca and la primer zapatilla. So yeah. Okay, so next up we got Matraka. And Matraka is actually the one who I was baffled that she was not on the top. Like
with this look?
Yes.
Okay.
This look is incredible. I loved it.
I really liked it. I thought it was really good. There's like literally only one thing about it that I'm like,
the wig?
No, the wig's fine. Okay. I mean, it's whatever, but obviously you don't like the wig. But
no, because it's kind of flat. No.
Well, the papel picado just seems like boom, 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 like just attached, like whatever.
Yes.
And so maybe that's referential to something, but I think it would have been much more effective as the trim on her dress.
Yes. But also, if you notice, okay.
And the trim on her train, like that would have been amazing. So,
but if you notice, not only does she have like the papel picado here, but she also kind of like used it as an stencil to spray paint the dress.
Yes, that's cool.
Yes, that's kind of cool. I feel like she incorporated the party better than somebody down the line that we're gonna see. Vermelia, who brought up the freaking table. I feel like this is a better way to incorporate the party because it's basically like the papel picado hanging from the ceiling at the party. So
okay.
So yeah, I mean, I think this look should have been on the top. Not win, but it should have been on the top.
And if you're American, you don't know what papel picado is, girl. We're not going to get into that. Google that. The internet should make you smarter.
We're not gonna because I was gonna. Anyway, papel picado, we just
it's decorations.
Yes, decorations. Then we get Miss Vallarta. And so here's the thing. So Miss Vallarta was basically, from the very beginning of the episode, the other queens were like, oh, she's gonna get it. Oh, like she's the only one who knows how to sew, like she's a great seamstress. And she said so herself, like in front of Valentina and Lolita in the walkthrough, like, oh, I'm a great seamstress. And everybody was like, oh my God, yes. She's like Jujubee in that singing challenge where she got drunk and everybody throughout the whole episode were like, oh, Jujubee is gonna win, and then she got drunk and whatever. Maybe Vallarta was drunk. We don't know. But I don't understand this. I don't understand the shape of this. Like, I don't understand why there are some things like kind of like going out of it, like kind of like sticking out of it. And her explanation of like the front versus the back, I don't get this. It's a mush.
I will say that I don't know how you put this on and you look in the mirror and you don't have the awareness, the self-awareness to say, I am serving post-apocalyptic jiggly caliente baked potato realness. Like, I don't know, like, and if maybe she did and was like, but this is what I got, girl. Oh well. but it's whoa.
She should have been like, this is Jiggly at her quinceañera.
This is my homage to Jiggly at her quinceañera. Right. At least make a joke out of it. I don't know. But like, and the thing is too, is that like some of the balloon fabric, the like gold is light. And so it keeps like billowing up and it just doesn't look good, girl. Ew, no. Next.
Anyway. And then we get a phone call. 1 second. Why is everybody looking for me today? Bueno.
I've been there.
So, then we get Pixie Pixie, and she should have been in the top. 100%.
I think so too, but what I'll say about this outfit is that I think anytime you wear black on the stage, it's difficult to see. Like look at the boots blend into the train, blend into the skirt. So it's hard to sort of get dimension and whatever. And I mean, who knows? You know, like sometimes there's a queen that's just doing really well and they just keep putting her in the middle to like Jan her, you know? Like, so who knows? I'm sure that she'll win some challenges and whatnot. This is, I can tell, like made really well, but it's just some of it is difficult to see. And like, if you want to do like a punk quinceañera, then like that's great. But like, it doesn't read very young to me.
Yeah.
But it's still amazing. I think it's a great, you know, I'm glad that she kept it because she actually sewed it. You know, that's cool.
All right. So you heard it first here. Like, Pixie Pixie is the Jan of the season.
We'll see.
That's so specific. And then we got Regina.
I can't with this picture.
But because she was in character, like the entire runway, so like every time you just look at her, she has this face on.
Yeah.
So I mean, she looks great. She looks very funny.
I think this skirt would have been kind of fun if it had been shorter.
Yeah.
You know, like chop it, you know, cut it, and then you'd have enough to like incorporate into the top. Like if the skirt had been kind of short, but then she'd use the rest of that material to make sort of like, you know, like Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, like streamer jacket, like do something like that, like a little shawl or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like you can use that shit down here for like up here.
Yeah.
You know, like make a cool little, like a little bolero jacket or whatever, you know. I mean, they probably don't know how to make a jacket, but you know what I mean? Like something. I don't know.
I mean,
it's like that. It is giving piñata.
Yeah, definitely. And then we get Serena Morena. So this is bad, but the way that Oscar Madrazo mentioned that, oh, if we take out the balloons, that we got nothing. It's like, well, if you take out the skirt out of any dress, you don't get like a something else underneath. Like that's not how clothes work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was really a weird way to say, like, oh, if we take half of your outfit, we have nothing to show for. Like, of course not, because you took half of my outfit. So yeah, this is pretty bad, but I like the idea of like the skirt made out of balloons, you know, for somebody.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like, sure, maybe it's not great, but like, if you squint your eyes, this one is giving you like a silhouette. At least it's giving you a shape, and I think it actually in this photograph, it photographs kind of well. Like if you like sit back,
take out your clothes.
You know, like I think it looks kind of cool. I don't hate it.
If the top was kind of like, you know, if she had cinched a little bit more and it had more of a shape.
Yeah, why not put one of those heart balloons like right here?
Yeah, something like that.
You know? Yeah.
But it's not like, it's not a bad idea. I feel like, I don't know if that's too crazy to say, but I would exchange maybe Regina for Serena in the bottom. Not in the bottom two, but in the bottom three.
No. Oh, you mean you would have put Regina in the bottom?
In the bottom three for.
Oh, yeah.
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 And then we get Vermelia. So Vermelia kind of did like oh my god, what was her name? Oh god, what was her name? It had to do with that southern dish with the seafood.
She went as Beauty and the Beast, right?
Jambalaya. No, come on.
June
Jambalaya.
I was like, how do I remember cornbread? June Jambalaya. Yeah.
Jambalaya. Okay. So. Yes, she's giving June Jambalaya, which is basically like, oh God, my dress is terrible, so I have to put something in front of it and try to pretend that this is supposed to be on purpose. So yeah, she did the entire table. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, but like
that tablecloth is kind of fun. Why not use that for like your outfit?
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, you know,
yeah.
this makeup is giving me Carla Rossi. It's a drag queen that from Portland. But I mean, you're just gonna get that with like a white face queen, I guess. But yeah, this isn't good.
No, I feel like this is this is the definition of that Juju read that she does to Jessica on season 2. That a funky a funky fuck a piñata.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that your drag look. Yeah, this is like an explosion of piñata and quinceañera. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't like this. Okay.
Well,
so
maybe we should find out who our chidas of the week are.
Yes.
All right, you go first. Who is your chida of the week?
Okay. Oh God. So it's my chida of the week is gonna be the one that I like the most, even though the one who won makes the most sense. You know, like the fact that Argenis won, I'm like, okay, yes, like this is her challenge. She was an actual quinceañera, good for her. But I feel like my favorite one is in fact Matraka. So my cheat of the week is Matraka.
Okay.
So what about you?
Well, I think for me, the one that reads most, the one that to me reads most quinceañera, which defines the, fitted the brief the best, did the challenge the best, for me is Argenis. She gets my chida of the week. She gets mis 25 puntos.
They misquoted it again. They said 20
What?
puntos again.
Yeah, but you said it's actually 25.
Yes, it is. No, you're right.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway.
Don't take those 5 points away from Argenis. She gets mis 25.
Exactly.
All right. Okay.
Okay. So my chirpy of the week. Oh my God. I don't know. Wait. Why am I even thinking about it? My chirpy of the week is Vallarta because it just didn't make any sense. Like Vermelia and like Serena and like Regina, they got like bad outfits that still look like outfits. Vallarta, I feel like she's giving me Lala Ri Couture, so yeah.
Yeah, my churpia is definitely Miss Vallarta.
Yeah.
Welcome to our segment, Explaining the Reference. Let's start off with a couple things real quick that I noticed, and then, segue into all of the things that you noticed that I probably had no clue what they were. The first one I want to mention is Rockstar saying, he says something on the runway when someone's walking down. I don't remember which contestant it is, but he says, mi cuerpo sí que cambia día con día.
Yeah.
Right?
Actually,
and that,
okay,
well,
tell me.
The thing that I don't understand is I was like, maybe this is a song reference, maybe this is something he did, I don't know. But then Valentina responds with, she says intensa, but they translate it as, the song, girl. Yeah.
Okay, that's crazy. But this song is actually referenced throughout the episode, like several times, including the video message from Lolita at the beginning of the Werk Room day. She mentions, she kind of does a drag version of it. But it's basically the song Quinceañera by Thalia, one of her one of her early solo successes. And this is actually the song that was kind of the theme song for the telenovela Quinceañera, which is about like literally like girls who are about to have like their quinceañeras. And so the theme song was this song by Thalia, who had the song has these lyrics that basically say like why do I feel different today? Why is my body changing? Like why does everybody look at me different? Because something's changing within me,
Something has changed.
I was about to say that. So anyway, something
is not the same.
So anyway, and the chorus goes like, and now the woman in me is waking up, and little by little the girl in me is dying, and now the adventure of life begins. So
okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed was in the workroom, I think it's in the workroom, Cristian says, mi chicle Lupe. which they translate as "Don't even tuck about it, girl."
Which, by the way, is a great translation. I would have done something similar, you know.
Okay, so explain this to me
They are
because I was
talking
like,
about her talk. Yeah.
But for when I read this, mi chicle Lupe, I'm under the impression that chicle means gum.
It does.
So how does that translate to tuck?
You know, my chicle, my between me down there.
Well, then why not just say pedo since you say that for every other word in Spanish?
No, that's not it. Anyway, so I gotta be completely honest. I had never heard this in my life, so I thought it was a specific reference to something. I tried to Google it. It just came with like some people tweeting about it because Cristian said it on the show. So, but I feel like chicle because you know queens have talked about how after a long night of hooking, you know, after being talked for so long, because let's be honest, queens in the real world are talked for like a couple of hours, you know, when they give a show or something. In the RuPaul world, they are talked for like freaking 12 hours while they are shooting the episode. So it's not like the same amount of like torture for your between me down there. And so I feel like it has to be a reference to like after a long day, you know, of talking, it feels like gum, you know, like all like shoot up gum or something. I don't know.
Okay.
If you know what this means, please put it in the comments.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
The only other thing I noticed is I know what they are, but I thought that some Americans watching who might not be too familiar with like quinceañeras, because they say it so many times in the episode that we should probably mention what chambelanes are.
Yeah. So basically, when you know, speaking of the rituals in a quinceañera, where you have to dance, you know, in front of your guests in your dress, and you also get like kind of like a more modern dance, you know, to like a song on the radio or something like that. You do these dances, and you have to have, you know, some dancers with you. But these dancers are your chambelanes, who are traditionally your cute cousins or your cute friends of the family or your cute friends from school that are kind of like in your age group, you know, like 15, 16, 17 or something. And you ask them to be your chambelanes because you think they're cute, you know? And so you basically go like, hey, do you want to be my chambelan? And so there are like these cute kids who literally spend their late teenage years being chambelanes for all their friends because they're like the cute kids at school or something like that. But also, I was telling you the other day that there's also a business side to it because you could.
This was an insane video clip that you
could
sent me.
also rent, like, you know, buy the whole package of the party. So you get a choreographer that is gonna give you chambelanes that are like not professional dancers, but guys who dance well enough to be like, I can rent myself out as a chambelan and like dance for girls that I don't even know because like I just come with the package of like the choreographer and the chambelanes and the whole thing. So yeah, those are the chambelanes.
I find that really weird. It's like, oh, so you don't know any of these people.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway.
So anyway,
well,
yeah.
that's it for me.
So I noticed some other ones. My favorite one, because I've been dying to tell you about this one from the very first episode we recorded, because it kind of came up, but now finally we get it in an episode, and we're gonna get it 1,000 more times, I promise you, because it's one of the greatest quotes of all time in gay slang in Mexico. So we talked about Niurka last week, and I told you that Niurka was gonna come up again and again and again. So a little bit more about Niurka. Niurka is very trashy. You know, she even before she starred in a couple of reality shows where she got into fights and all of this and that, she's always been trashy because, oh my God, if she's watching this, I'm sorry, girl, don't come for me. Because she's always getting interviewed, like in the airport or something, by the media about a bunch of things that are not even of her concern. That if somebody dies, you know, a famous person dies, and if they find Niurka on the street, 1,000 reporters are gonna be like, Nurka, what do you think of this person? And she's
oh my god,
she's gonna give you a statement. That's the thing. Every time somebody asks her a question, she's gonna give you a statement, and that statement is gonna go viral because she is a meme quote trashy queen, and we kind of love her. We kind of hate that we love her, but whatever. So one of the greatest quotes of all time is she was on this show. Like I told you, we have a lot of shows of like Singing with the Stars, Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
And so she was a judge because she's actually, let's be honest, she's a great dancer. And so she was on this show judging kind of like variety stuff. So there were these girls singing, and they were singing a Gloria Trevi song. And so they were singing a Gloria Trevi song. And as we know, Gloria Trevi, not so much now, but more in the past, she used to be this huge force of nature on stage, where she would be like punk and rebellious and like flip the camera off and like be like, and all of this and that. And so this contestant, she tried to emulate Gloria Trevi. And so she kind of like stepped in front of the other contestant, and she was kind of like flipping the judges up and being like, blah, blah, blah. And so when Nurka was like, why did you do that? You shouldn't have done that. And that was not professional. The contestant was like, I was doing Gloria Trevi. Like, Gloria Trevi, this is how she does it. And Nurka said, that is not true, because she's my personal friend. I've been to every single birthday party of her sons. And we were like, was history just made here? Like, was her story just made here? Yes. Es mi amiga personal. He estado en todos los cumpleaños de sus hijos. And so, girl, I don't know, I don't think I tweeted this, but in the past I've said, I know Terry Blas, es mi amiga personal, he estado en todos los cumpleaños de sus hijos. Because it's like, girl, like you gotta say it. Like every time you talk about a good friend of yours, you gotta go like.
Is that what Valentina then?
Yes, because she was
mi amiga personal.
Yeah, she was saying like, you didn't know the lyrics to the Belinda song, and Belinda es mi amiga personal. She didn't say the second part. I've been in every single one of her son's birthday parties. And then the greatest part of this is that, years later on Twitter, somebody found a photo of Nurka at a Gloria Trevi birthday party for her son. And they were like, oh my God, it's true. She was not lying.
That's funny.
She's always invited to the birthday party. So great. So anyway, Terry, mi amiga personal, está en todos los cumpleaños de tus hijos.
De todos mis hijos.
Sí, de todos. And then at some point, like the song that we told you about last week for the piñata, we also have a song for the cake, which is Queremos pastel, pastel, pastel. And so they mentioned the song a couple of times. Some of the queens.
Well, it was great because they transitioned into it with Lady Queremos pastel, pastel, pastel. Yeah.
The puns are punning. So anyway, there's also a reference, a couple of times the queens talk about their dresses as being ampones, because ampon means something that is very bulky. But in the case of a dress, it's when a dress, does this, kind of like this silhouette of like a gown that is like, suddenly goes like this. That's ampon. That silhouette is ampon. And so some queens actually refer to themselves as amponas, because they either wear gowns like that, or they're like big girls, like curvy girls. And so
how is
amponas?
How is ampona not a drag name?
I'm sure it must be. And then there's a play on words that they mention at least a couple of times, which is using the word in Spanish for purple, which is morado, or in this case, in feminine, morada. They add a de at the beginning, and it means de morada, which is like, I come wearing purple, I come de morado. But if you put it together, it means that you're late. You're demorado.
Demorado.
So they mentioned it a couple of times, like, oh, she came demorada, but she's also on time, or something like that, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they talk about a lot about like taking the ornament at the center of the table. So in weddings and quinceaños and all of that, you get, like a venue, you rent a venue, and then you put all the tables and you put something nice like a flower vase or something like that in the middle of the table, you know, the centerpiece, whatever. And so at the end of the party, there's a little bit of controversy if it is allowed that you take it home or if it is not, because sometimes it is, but sometimes it's like, no, we gotta return this. But most often than not, it is allowed to take them. But the thing is, like, who's gonna take them if there are several guests on each table? And so there's always a tia who's the first one to like take them and be like, okay, I'm going home. And so,
I'm just gonna say now that if I were a tia, that would be the energy that I'm giving. That would be the energy I'm giving.
You would have all the centros de mesa at your house. Also, by the way, like, what's centro de mesa at your house? I don't know, but some tias get them. They also talk about the recalentado. So basically, when you get leftovers here in Mexico, you don't only eat it by yourself the next day. No. Every single big party is actually 2 days long, because first you eat. You know, you have their dinner, you know, it could be Christmas, it could be a birthday, it could be quinceaños, a wedding, whatever. And then the next day, you gotta come back for the recalentado, which is basically we're gonna eat the leftovers together. And so
come back.
Yes.
I'm giving you no 2-day commitment for some food.
You don't want to eat leftovers?
Yes, but on my couch alone, girl. I don't need to come back for you to see you again.
Anyway, Valentina
I have Drag Race episodes to watch.
Valentina mentions that that Cristian Peralta looks like Mía Colucci. Mía Colucci is just Anaí, her character in Rebelde, which was, you know, the epitome of like the preppy girl of like, she would talk like this, you know.
Yeah.
When they send them to Untalk, they say like, go to echar el chal. So a chal is a shawl, you know, but when you throw the shawl, it's because you're literally like, you know, like señoras, like ladies talking and being like, you know, like putting your shawl on because it's kind of cold out. So like you talk and you do the chisme, you know, wearing your shawl. So that's kind of like echar el chal. And so they say like, go to echar el chal backstage, you know? So it's like basically spilling the tea, you know?
Yeah. That's I love that. I love that throwing your shawl.
Like, yes.
Is basically spilling, is like Spanish version of spilling the tea.
Yeah.
Especially because throwing the shawl is also like a very like gay thing. Like,
yes, exactly.
You know, like that's great.
And then we also have so we have a lot of like, if something sounds like something in Spanish, we're gonna use it like that. So for example, you can say "qué onda," which is like what's up.
What's up?
You can do anything that starts with like on. You can use it. So for example, the most common one is like "qué hongo." You know, hongo is mushroom, but you can say like "qué hongo" because it sounds like "qué onda." You know. And so for example, in this episode, Serena Morena says "qué once con Beyoncé."
Oh my God.
Which is basically "qué onda," but she's in literally she's saying what 11 with Beyonce, because 11 is once and it sounds like Beyonce.
But that's also, I mean, I also hear that in my head as like what's up Beyonce, like, you know, like,
and those are all my references.
Oh my God, that's quite a few in this episode.
Yes, I'm gonna cut some of them.
Well, like you mentioned, Argenis is the winner of this week's challenge. I think well deserved. I think she did a great job. And because not because of that, but after that, we basically go into the bottom two in the lip sync. So this week's lip sync for your life, or lip sync icónico, was between Miss Vallarta, otra vez, and Serena Morena to the song Mírala, Míralo by Alejandra Guzman. Okay. This is all I have to say about Alejandra Guzman.
Please say it. Please say it.
Please keep in mind, my mother, who I love dearly, is a Mormon woman in her 70s. Okay. So anytime we would like be visiting family or whatever, and we'd be in Mexico and like the TV would be on and it would mention Alejandra Guzman, or she would pop up. Anytime my mom heard her name, she would go, Alejandra Guzman, la Madonna de Mexico. Whatever. Anyway, what do you think about this lip sync song?
Okay, so here's the thing. When we did our episode with the Meet the Queens and our expectations, when we did our episode for the Meet the Queens and our expectations for the season, we talked about I talked about how I didn't want just the songs on the radio. Like I wanted like, gay classics or like, classics in general, drag classics, because I gotta say, like the reason why Yuri became like a gay staple, most of it is because of drag queens. Because drag queens, before it kind of developed into like this, performance-based kind of like original thing, here in Mexico, it was mostly female impersonators doing like Alejandra Guzman, Yuri, Amanda Miguel, Lucero, Thalia, Paulina Rubio, like the same ones over and over again, because those are like the drag staples, Yeah. And so I wanted those kinds of songs as well as, the more contemporary hits. So for example, next week, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a Dana Paula song. We can either get Agüita or we can get Sodio. One of those would be amazing. And last week we got a Belinda song, which is pretty modern. But this week we got a drag, gay, slutty, empowered women classic, which is Mírala, Míralo by Alejandra Guzman. Alejandra Guzman has so many songs that could be lip synced by a drag queen. But this one is so sexual and so slutty. Because like this song has lyrics about like, it's basically a song about this woman that walks in her lover having sex with another woman. And the whole song is about describing the guy as he's fucking the girl and the girl as she's being fucked. And her feelings about like, I should say something, but I cannot speak because I'm just looking at them. And so it's like, the descriptions are like, she describes like how her eyes are white because she's basically like her eyes are in the back of her head, and how she's sweating and moaning, and how he's like this. There's a line here that I've always thought like, this is a line that is pretty hot, which is basically she calls him a naked angel dripped in sweat. Girl.
Okay.
I know. So anyway, that's being your explaining Alejandra Guzman's song of the week. That's and so those kinds of songs, I'm like, yes, girl, like lip sync to those songs. Next week we're gonna get Dana Paula. That's great, but I hope that the weeks after that we get draggy songs like this.
Well, with a song like this, these girls need to step their pussies up because, come on, it was like not that great again. I would even be okay with them putting someone who does really well, coming up with some BS reason to put them in the bottom next week so that we get an amazing lip sync.
It's like Calabaro, you know what? Just lip sync, girl. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have much to say about this lip sync other than that, and the fact that Vallarta tried to do like a fake out, which, like, I think that's over. Like, it was over once. I don't remember her name. She was on UK. And she was trans.
Yes, because she dressed as Pokemon trainers, and what was her name? Okay, we're gonna put her name here. But she did a great one.
And it was great. It was really funny. Yeah. So anyway, that was it. So yeah, the winner of the lip sync, that would be Serena Morena, and that means that unfortunately, Miss Vallarta, bye bye. Her lipstick message says, "Real las amo a todas. PD," which I'm assuming PS in Spanish. "Tráigame talco. Terminé bien rosada. Hashtag pink team." Now,
Rosado is pink, but rosado is also shaved. When you shave your inner thighs because you're chubby and you kind of put them together.
Yeah. So if you don't speak Spanish, she basically says, I really love all of you. Please bring me talcum powder because I'm leaving very pink, which has those double meanings, shaved, but also she was a pink queen, like her makeup was always pink, so and then hashtag pink team. So that was her mirror message, which Serena Morena is going to have to clean up, I guess, next week. then we get the exit line.
I don't know the optics of Mexican queens cleaning up the mirror.
Oh, no. That's why if I was ever on Drag Race and I had to clean a mirror, I would be like, oh, you're gonna make a Mexican do it, girl. All right, well, this is your frontrunner update. Do you have? I have a few frontrunners who I think are still kind of, I think are gonna make it far, hopefully. Do you have any?
So here's the thing. She's not necessarily like my favorite, but I feel like this has been Cristian's season so far. So I feel like Cristian Peralta is our frontrunner,
Yeah, I mean, there's a group that I think are probably going to
do
well. Go for it. But Margaret's in that group. I think Matraka is in that group. Cristian is in that group. Yeah, I guess we'll see. Like, you never know. Like, in the next 2 episodes, Cristian could start doing poorly, and maybe Argenis is gonna kill. Like, who knows? So right now, I feel like it's still kind of early for front runners. But usually after like 5 episodes, you're like, okay,
yeah,
we know who. Well, that brings us to our art moment of the week.
Yes.
And there are a few people who I want to mention and a few pieces that they did. We have a couple repeats and a couple new people. The first one is a repeat because it's Chucho Chocolatín. And they drew Lolita and Valentina. Then we have someone named Gloria Felix. And they drew Matraka, which is really cool. I really like this piece.
Me too.
It's a really cool style that they draw. Again, we have Notan Prieto. They drew the cast. We have someone who I don't know if this is right, but Munecos. They made a doll, like they knitted a doll of Cristian Peralta's like flaque-paque look, which is really cool. And if you go to their Instagram, they posted other photos of it, so you can kind of get like 360 of it. It's really cool. And then It's Lemon Drop drew Margaret in your favorite look of the season.
Yes.
And It's Lemon Drop also drew the cast. So they did a couple pieces, and that's great. So follow them, share their work, show them some love, tell them they're on this, podcast episode, point them our way. And if you draw someone from the cast, anything from Drag Race Mexico, tag us in it, send it to us, hashtag the J word. Hashtag Drag Race Mexico. Well, next week on Drag Race Mexico, it looks like the queens are going to be doing some sketches. I don't really know. I mean, I don't mean the drawing kind, but I don't know. I don't know what that's going to entail, but I guess we'll find out.
And they're gonna be so raunchy.
Yeah,
I love that comment. I love that comment from Lolita. Like, oh, they're gonna think Mexicans are raunchy, and I'm like, well, we are.
Well, they are. They'll be joined on the main stage by the best Elphaba ever to play her on stage, Dana Paola. Get ready, because we are going to talk about her next week, and I love her so much. Chucho, tell people where to find you.
So you can find me on Letterboxd and Instagram as Chucho_QMP, and on Twitter, hopefully still on Twitter. While I get my 600 tweets on Chucho_Q.
You can find me at terryblas.com and on Twitter and Instagram at Terry Blas. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, and as always, respeta tu cultura, maricón.